Sure.
So good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of The Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight I'm joined by Jake Calonius, and he's the singer and guitar player for the band Letallis. So Jake, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me, Hector. It's awesome to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome, to discover new bands. I know you're putting out a new EP called A Thousand Nights, but obviously I listened to your previous full length, which is called Resonate.
Mhm.
And it's pretty cool. So for people that don't know Letalis, tell us a little bit about the history of the band.
I mean, so we actually kind of go back quite a bit further, sometimes than I care to admit. So the band actually started off when I was in high school. Um, Basically just found a couple like-minded metalheads who wanted to play some music at the time. And yeah, then we started kind of gigging around. We recorded actually our first full-length record. It was called The World Awakened. There's still actually no digital copies of that yet, so that's definitely on my to-do list.
So
Um,
that's the hard find. The
That's a hard, yeah. If you can find that, then you're
Yeah,
definitely,
because I wanted to listen to it to see how the band has changed and evolved.
yeah. I mean, so that's definitely something I need to get out there in the future. But anyway, so throughout high school, we kind of gigged around, recorded a full length. Then after we graduated, everybody kind of wanted to go and do their own thing. I wanted to keep the band going. So then I eventually, years and years after, wrote Resonate. So that was then the second full length album. And then so started off in New Jersey. I moved over back to New York City. And then since then, we've been I found new members. And now since then, we've been playing live. And yeah, and then fast forward to today, releasing 1001 Nights. So that should be out. The new single is already out, and then the rest of it will be following in the months. Yeah.
Yeah, the lead single, I think is called, if I'm not mistaken, it's the A Thousand and One Nights
Mhm.
single. So I was reading a little bit of the background of this upcoming EP, and it's all stories about A Thousand and One Nights. Why, what drew you into that story in particular?
I think so. I've had that idea floating around my head for like a long time. I think even when I was still writing Resonate, I had this like little inkling in the back of my head, like I think that's a future project I want to make happen. So I've always definitely had a fascination with kind of non like Western music. So definitely Middle Eastern music, Asian, and just a lot of stuff that's outside of like the traditional 4/4, Western scale type stuff. Um, and with that one, I think it's just everybody is very familiar with the kind of Disney version of what, like the Arabian Nights and like Aladdin and
Uh,
stuff like that.
Aladdin,
Yeah.
and you know what? They're actually not Arabian Nights. They're actually Persian Nights.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean the whole story, it's one of those things as I started looking into it, I just started kind of getting more and more fascinated with it. And I mean it's really kind of it's this the 1001 Nights or the Arabian Nights, however you want to call it. It's really just kind of this big amalgamation or big tapestry of so many different stories that originate from the Middle East, Persia, India, and even Asia. And I think a lot of it kind of evolved over the centuries along the Silk Road trade routes.
Mhm.
And it was just all these different stories that people would just kind of tell to one another, traders, merchants. Yeah, and so I've always had a fascination with that sound of like the Middle East and everything. I love the just everything about it, like the artwork, the architecture, the geometric designs that they do, like the poetry. I mean, it's just such an abundant culture, with so many things to go with it. So I just figured, yeah, there's some really cool stories in there, and a lot of them are pretty metal sounding, they're pretty epic, if you will. So yeah, that was just always piqued my interest. So I dove into it.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting, and but someone I know told me like you need to because you need to tell them that it's Persian. Yeah, I'm like
Yeah.
okay, I tell, but yeah, it's interesting. So the first single 1,001 Nights. So tell me a little bit about that single, both musically and lyrically.
Yeah, so musically, I would say I'm trying to think if that was even the first song I wrote. I think it was one of the first songs I wrote for this EP. Um, I knew that, whatever the title track was going to be, I wanted it to be something that was engaging and definitely kind of a little fast and exciting. Some of the other songs, and that, you'll hear soon enough, they have a lot more dynamics in it. That song is a little bit more kind of consistently go, go, go throughout the whole thing. Um, but yeah, also lyrically, that is the first kind of like what they would call frame story in the 1001 Nights. So that song is about Scheherazade, who is like the main protagonist. And she is the one who basically kind of stands up to this really terrible king who decides to take a virgin every night and then behead them the next day because the story goes he was betrayed by his wife, so he was so hurt by that he's only now going to marry a virgin and then kill them the next day. So Scheherazade steps in once he's killed. I think I did the math and they said somewhere in the nights, like I think it was roughly about 3 years of him doing
Wow.
that every night. So it's actually like a lot. So that's like, 1,000 plus, women that he slaughtered. So it's if you actually look into the story and, like between the lines a little bit, it's actually pretty graphic. Um, so Scheherazade is the daughter of the head vizier, who's like the head advisor to the king. And or, you know, he's basically tasked with finding the new virgins every night. Um, he starts freaking out because they've ran out, and then so his daughter's the only one there. She steps in and says, I have an idea. And she says, I'm going to tell him a story every night, and then it's going to be so engaging and so enthralling that
That he didn't
that
want
he'll
to like sleep with her.
well, I think they did, but it was more so that she would
He wanted to keep her around so she would keep telling him stories.
exactly, yeah. So, it's when you say it like that, it definitely takes away some of the mystique to it. It's a little like, ugh, geez, that's a toxic relationship. But um, yeah,
Very
anyway,
much
so
in need of therapy.
oh, yeah, therapy and I mean many, many other things,
Yeah.
but anyway, so that is the frame story for the 1001 Nights. So pretty much the start to every story kind of starts off like, oh, auspicious king, let me tell you about this. And then so then it takes you into another story. And I
Okay.
think that's one of the most fascinating parts about it overall is it's always or not always, but they really kind of do like a Russian doll thing of just a story within a story. Sometimes that story will veer off into another one. And before you know it, all of a sudden you're kind of reading along and like you realize like, oh, I'm like 4 stories deep right now, so it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's been 10 years since Resonate. What
Yeah.
have you what have you been doing in these 10 years? Why such a long wait?
Well, I would like to say I had some good reasons. Unfortunately, I think it's just a lot of kind of life happening. Um, moving, jobs, the pandemic was kind of thrown in the mix there.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So a lot of different variables. Also just myself just needing to kind of be a little bit better at following through on things. So I take full responsibility, no clear blame there. Um, I would say for some of those years, though, probably around 2017 to 2019, that was kind of like the second iteration of the band. So that's when we started playing live a bit more, or actually live since high school. So it had been a little while then,
Wow.
but yeah. Anyway, also in between that time, kind of learning how to do like audio engineering, mixing, things like that. So just kind of like
Yeah.
slowly getting all the pieces in place to then eventually have it where it is today.
Yeah, because I know I was reading that you actually produce and did you engineer this new EP as well?
Yeah, that's correct. So everything you hear, even on Resonate, I wrote, recorded, mixed, and mastered everything. The
So
only thing that isn't actually like played by me is the drums, which I program those. But yeah, I wish I could play drums. I could.
if people say something bad about it, you will take it more personally because it was you. Like, are you hard on yourself? Like when you are because it's so much DIY. You're doing it yourself. How hard are you on getting it perfect.
I think that's another definite crux of like what I went through or consistently going through as an artist to just like wanting it to be perfect and everything and then just not I think a lot of it has to do with kind of the fear of putting it out there, right? Because like if you procrastinate, which is, a bit of a vice of mine, but if you procrastinate, it's like you don't have to worry about being rejected by people, right? It's always it kind of always gets stuck in like never, never land. Um, so that was the thing of, like finally saying, okay, you know what, even if it's not exactly perfect, or I might have tried to do things a slightly different way, it's just got to get out there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're going to be releasing, you told me a little bit like it's like a waterfall effect where you release like one single each month. So in April, you release Thousand Nights. Which one are you releasing in May?
So in May, coming up on Thursday, May 2nd, is going to be the next single called Thief. So yeah, so that's going to be the waterfall thing where I release it with Thief as the main song, and then A Thousand One Nights is also coupled with that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Thief, what's Thief about? Obviously, I think it's self-explanatory. I'm guessing is it about Aladdin?
Funny enough, no, actually. I
Yeah,
think
no, please.
I'm still kind of debating if I'm actually gonna do an Aladdin song. My
Oh,
hesitation is that it's a
God,
little,
no.
yeah, it's probably a little too Disney-ish.
Yeah.
I might take elements from that, but no, it's funny because I originally was thinking of maybe the Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, which is a pretty big story from the Knights. But the story itself wasn't necessarily one I was super interested in telling. It's also not very long. So I kind of took elements of that, and there's thievery all throughout the Knights. So I kind of just took elements of that, and the song is essentially about the perspective of a thief in that era. Um, and this thief is willing to kind of burn any bridge, cross anybody, like has no honor, willing to do whatever he wants to get what he wants, which is just kind of endless greed. It's like an endless appetite. So yeah.
Yeah, sounds interesting. And musically, how is that different from the A Thousand and One Nights?
So this one it starts off a little bit slower. This one has a little bit more like kind of it's a little slower and heavier. Even though it has some fast parts in it. There's definitely a midsection that dips down and gets very kind of dynamic and I actually do some clean singing in there. So that's something I'm trying to venture into a little bit more. Um, and yeah, and it's a little bit it kind of has a little bit more of a journey along it. A Thousand More Nights is definitely a fun one, but it's a bit more kind of like consistent throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Listening to Letallis, I would say it's like a modern type of death metal to it. Or how would you describe the sound of the band?
It's funny because I always hesitate a little bit to say we're like a death metal band because I feel like I listen to a lot of bands that are like death metal, and I always feel like I'm not heavy enough to qualify for that necessarily. So I feel like we kind of fall under the melodic death metal umbrella.
Yeah,
Um,
like a Dark Tranquility. Uh,
yeah, yeah, something like that.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So I have the artwork for the EP, which I'm gonna show it.
Oh,
Uh,
please, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So here we have the artwork for the EP, and for an EP, yeah, that's a very amazing artwork. So tell me a little bit about who did the artwork.
So the artwork, it's a little bit of a collaboration, but I mean the majority of it was done by this guy. His name is Carl Ellis. I can't say enough good things about Carl. I mean, he was an amazing artist to work with, really. So when I was looking around for somebody, I knew I kind of wanted something in a slightly like oil painting-ish style.
Mm.
Um, and I was shopping around, and there's a band that I'm friends with in London or in the UK called oh geez, man. Oh
Mhm.
man, I'm blanking on the name at the moment. I'm so sorry. But anyway, but they Countless Skies is the name. Sorry. I saw one of the covers they had and I thought, okay, that's a pretty cool, piece of artwork. So I reached out to the guy and he was super into it. I told him I had the vision of I wanted like a distant Arabian city and slight fantasy elements. Originally I was thinking of
Oh,
having it
yeah,
have
because
like
it's on a cloud.
yeah. Well, originally I was thinking of having it kind of like looking through archways at something in the distance. And then so Carl, artist, he drafted up a couple different ideas. And then the third one he did was this city that was kind of floating on the clouds, and like it just kept getting my attention, and I really, really was interested in it. So we went with that. And then basically there was just a lot of different iterations. He gave me multiple ideas, and I would say, let's do this, try this. Yeah, and then we came to the final piece. And also he did the kind of filigree outline. That was something I definitely wanted. I know the guys in Mastodon, their artist Paul Romano is somebody who does like a lot of that for their artwork, and I definitely kind of wanted to bite some of that style. So that's what
Oh
we
yeah.
ended up doing.
Mastodon has always some great covers, and it goes always with the themes of the records. So
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, so they're definitely, I don't think I sound anything like them, but they're definitely a big influence in terms of just stuff that I enjoy. And so this was a definite venture into that, which was more just concept record, right? You know, this is just about like a fantasy story. And so let's make a floating city in the clouds.
yeah. So talking about concept records, do you have any like favorite concept records that you always go back to?
I mean, there's a bunch, but I would say, I mean, some of my favorites are the Mastodon ones. Like, I think a huge imprint on me when I was younger was the record Leviathan. I mean, that was one where it
Great
was
record.
like Moby Dick, you know, I mean, I remember being pretty young and going to Ozfest and watching them and just seeing the huge artwork that Paul Romano did as like a huge
Did
stage banner.
did you go 2005?
I did. I was actually, that was my first Ozfest and first like
Mine
metal
too.
show.
That was
Oh
the
yeah.
first Ozfest I went to, but I saw them. I went to West Palm Beach in Florida.
Oh, nice. Okay. Is that where you're at now or?
No, I'm in Puerto Rico.
Oh, even better. Cool.
Yeah. It's better than Florida, yes. So no, but I went to see the Ozfest, and Mastodon played, but their set was cut short because I think the guitar player like cut his fingers playing, and you could see like the blood spraying, which
Oh
was
man.
actually pretty metal.
I was gonna say pretty metal. Yeah.
Painful for him, and it cut short. But then I saw them opening for Metallica in Puerto Rico in 2010.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2010. Yeah, they opened for Metallica here, which was awesome. And yeah, I always loved them and their concept records. So so for you, like, do you think that this is the first concept like album that you've written? Because I listened to Resonate. I don't know if Resonate's there's like a concept, but it didn't feel as much as a concept as obviously this is like stories.
Yeah, so Resonate was a bit more just kind of personal. Like each song was kind of just something different that I felt, I mean, not to, you know, like no pun intended, but like that resonated with me, right? And right. And I guess I was going for something that I guess, you know, hopefully would be a little bit like more universal. So there's no overarching theme other than like each song is kind of its own thing. And with 1001 Nights, this is definitely like here's the frame story, and then here are the other following stories after that, all based around the book. And um, definitely taking some artistic
Liberties.
liberties. Thank you. Yeah. But so some of the stories are not to a T exactly that, but it's a bit
Well,
of like, okay, if this was the character, what would they be thinking? You
yeah,
know?
that's okay because Disney changes every
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
They Disneyfy it. So
Yeah.
so now that you so the EP is going to be released full every song until in July. Is it going to be released digitally first, or are you going to have physical copies of the EP?
So I don't really know the realistic. If there was a big demand for it, I would love to print vinyl. But I think as of right now, like once, probably around July, like once that starts to approach, I'll probably print some physical copies, like on a CD.
Mhm.
I know some people like tapes as kind of a fun collector's thing, but as of right now, everything's digital. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And what are your thoughts, because I've talked to a lot of like artists now, and like EP, there more artists are releasing EPs than full length, and releasing music this way, uh, because of attention spans of people, and like the how the music industry has changed. What are your thoughts on that? On like releasing your music this way instead of like a full album?
So as I mean, as like as a fan of music, as a lifetime fan of music, I mean, I love a really good album, right? I mean, I
Yeah,
love
who
when
doesn't?
yeah, when an artist has like this really big idea and they really see it through and kind of explore every type of, aspect of that. Um, that being said, though, as an artist that's, on the unknown to smaller side, um, I think the EPs are definitely the way to go, singles and everything like that. And I know some artists kind of get upset at that and they say, well, I want to do a full length. And I say, like, well, I mean, you could still do like a full length. I mean, essentially what I'm doing with a thousand and one nights is this is the first EP. And I'm sorry, I don't know if this was told to you, but so this is
Yeah,
going to be the
I read that it's like a first EP and there's gonna be like two more.
exactly, yeah.
No,
So
no, I did my research, man. I read.
yeah, you did your homework. So it's over time, it's eventually going to be a full length, but what
Yeah.
I'm doing is I'm kind of breaking it up into chunks and just kind of having different, versions of that. And I think what's cool about the EP format is that as an artist, like if you don't have this overarching like grandiose idea of like a full record, you could say, all right, well, I'm just going to explore a couple ideas in just this little thing. Like maybe that's what you were feeling for that time of the year. Um, and it gets it out to people more frequently. It was a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow at first, but honestly, once I kind of thought it through, it's like, yeah, I'm here for it.
Awesome. So are there any plans for shows or some tours coming up for the band?
Unfortunately, no tours as of yet, but we just played a show a couple weeks ago, probably about 3 weeks ago. Basically, just kind of playing around New York City, which is where we're at right now. Have a show coming up in June with some other good friends of ours. Same thing in Brooklyn and New York City. We'd love to start playing and kind of branching out to, different states, but easier said than done. So yeah, that's definitely on the in the near future. Yeah.
Yeah, and since it's been 10 years since you guys like released new music, how are the fans that stuck with you? How are the fans like reacting that you guys are back?
It's been really great. I mean, I'm very fortunate to say that I have a lot of good friends in my life that have always been super supportive. And it definitely kind of became a running joke with some close friends of mine of like, yeah, yeah, the new Letallis music, if it ever comes out in my lifetime. But so now that it is finally here, now that it is finally happening, everybody's been digging it so far. So I'm very happy to say that. Yeah.
Awesome. You didn't want to become like a meme like Tool.
Oh no, I mean, and the funny thing is, it's like at least they have people that are like waiting for their music. For me, it was like, okay, well,
But
no
you
one's
know
waiting
what's
for this.
interesting? That Tools, before they released Fear Inoculum in 2019, the
Hmm.
other one was called 10,000 Days. And I don't know if like how many days was it 10,000 days that they had to wait for the
That
new?
might have actually been accurate. Yeah,
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 like who? Maybe they were trolling fans. They were telling the like, when is the new album coming out? Oh, you remember the title of the last album? That's you'll have to wait 10,000 days for the next album. So yeah,
yeah.
so I enjoyed I haven't listened. I wanted to listen to the full EP, but the promo didn't have the full EP. But I did listen
Uh,
to Resonate. I listened to the single, and I saw like similarities, but also like difference. And now I know because you have like new players in the band. So I don't know if anyone's actually, because I was trying to Google what Letallis mean, but what is the meaning of the name?
so that started in high school. We were trying to come up with just like a regular like English word for a name or something, and we couldn't. We just there was nothing really that we settled on. And I think one that we tried to do, there was already a band called that, and this is back in like the MySpace days.
Oh my
Um,
God, the MySpace days.
yeah, the wild times. But anyway, so we couldn't really come up with anything. So we're like, let's just do latindictionary.com. So we kind of fumbled around a couple different things and then we're like, okay, like Latalis sounds cool. And technically the way that we spell it is actually I added an extra L in there.
Mhm.
So the real way is Letalis, not
That's why I couldn't
LL.
find anything.
Yeah, exactly. So funny enough, there's many other people and or things that have like just the regular spelling with it, the correct one. But so I did it just to kind of differentiate us a little bit. But the meaning is, I think it means mortal, deadly, or fatal. So something I think it stems from the word like lethal.
Okay.
Letallis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, lethal, because yeah, that kind of makes sense. And yeah, it makes sense with the music. So Jake, I want to thank you for taking some time of your night to chat with me virtually here on the couch.
yeah,
So
thank you.
yeah, so people, I'm gonna put the link for anyone who wants to. I'm gonna put the link because there's a music video, like the ones that you have like the lyrics and you can see the artwork. I'll post it so people can watch that music video, and also your YouTube page. I subscribe to your YouTube page.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah,
So
same.
so yeah, I'll put like the link for people who want to subscribe there and follow the band. Where else can they follow you?
So our main kind of source of conducting to everybody is through Instagram. But we're also on TikTok, all the other, Twitter.
Until it's banned.
Yeah, until it's not there anymore. So yeah. And then so I would say Instagram, and then if you want to keep track of like what music we're putting out, that's on Spotify. So
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. So people, you heard it here. So do you have a date in July when it's gonna be fully out, or is that still in the air?
Let me see real quick because I think I've been doing the second of every month. And let's look at yeah, that's going to be out July 2nd. So full thing is out July 2nd.
Just in time for the 4th of July.
Yeah, just in time to, really salute America, I guess.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so Jake, again, thank you, and hopefully I wish the best of success with Letallis, and hopefully it won't be 10 years.
Yeah. And hopefully we could come down to Puerto Rico at some point. So
Yeah, we love metal bands here. Like believe it or not, we have a great metal scene.
oh, I'm
Uh,
sure, yeah.
and yeah, if I know some promoters here, so you can message me and to get in touch with promoters here who bring bands all the time. So
Awesome.
so yeah, anything you before we go, you like to say to the fans before we go?
Just stay tuned for the next single that's going to be coming out. So yeah,
On May 2nd.
May 2nd, Thief will be
Thief.
out. Yes.
Awesome. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.